Hi, this is Bobby, and welcome to Off the Cuffs. We're here today. I have Tracy with me today. We're having a conversation about gun violence in our community, gun violence across the country. I want to welcome you to Off the Cuffs for a candid conversation. Tracy, tell us about yourself. Are you from Winston?
Yes, I'm from Winston-Salem, North Carolina, born and raised here. Went to Winston State University, pledged sorority, Delta Sigma Theta, have 3 children. 2 sons and a daughter. I have 2 kids that's my legacy that graduated Winston State. One is my oldest son, Jonathan McCravery. Jonathan graduated from Winston State in rehabilitation studies in 2011, and he was murdered here in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, due to a drive-by here in the city in Drayton Pines. My family, my mother and my sister lived there in that area, and not only was he was there, but I was out there. I was with my son when this happened. He was getting ready to have a big celebration for his daughter, which was turning 10 years old. He lived in Mecklenburg County, and we were all standing out. He called me over. My car was still running. I just came to embrace him, give him love. He was assuring that I wasn't going to be late, and I was assuring him that I'm not going to be late. I've taken off work. I've took a PTO day, and I'm not going to be late. And so my sister proceeded on her porch, and we left my mother's porch and went down and started talking to my sister. Some other family members came up. It was about 8 of us outside, even my little nephew that's probably 5 or 6 at the time. It came to the door just when we see a car coming down the street. Not thinking anything. I see the car stop, but I'm thinking maybe they're looking for someone. It's about 10:30 p.m. at night on May 26th of 2016. And I'm just thinking that possibly they're just looking for somebody. I didn't think anything of it. So as they decided to come on and proceed down the street, as me and my sister was standing on her porch, my son and some other family members were standing on the side. And next thing I know, I just seen big bowls of fire. I panicked. I could hear my son screaming, "Get down, get down." And everybody else said they hit the ground. I ran. And I know it was nobody but God's grace and mercy that we was there, whoever it was. They was expecting us no one to be living the next day. I know it had to be God on my side because I ran in the arms of fire. I felt like I was like a Meshach and a Billy Goat. God kept me. And I know thinking 3 years, 1 week and 2 days later, God kept me because my daughter would experience her fiance, high school sweetheart, graduated. He was a known rapper around the city, Jig Marley. My daughter met him her senior year. We had just celebrated her graduation at Winston State, May 10th. She was out in Punta Cana. I went and got the grandkids. Her and Jayla had a 3-month-old and a 5-year-old. I went to pick them up. He went out to let him have some free time. I left sorority meeting when he picked up the kids. He went out here on Cody Drive to a block party. I didn't know where he was going, but he ended up going out to a block party. Next thing I know, about 11 o'clock, I was waking up that Jalen had passed away. It was a shootout, a drive-by, and I just feel like a lot of people in this city knows what's going on. But I understand that people are afraid too, because if witness has to be known, they don't want someone to come in and retaliate to their families. But we are grieving parents out here that have lost their children, and we need justice for our kids so that we can get closure. And I just feel like a lot of things is happening because we not protecting the witnesses. The witness can't be protected. We do know that a person has a right to know who their accusers are. And with that right, they have a right to know who they are. So that means that the person has to get on a scan. But do you not think that people are afraid? People are afraid now. This is a new day and time. You got to go back to the constitutional rights. We got to make some changes. We got to lobby for new laws. We got to lobby for gun safety in America. And I've joined quite a few different organizations to help me through my grief, and I'm a part of Moms Demand Action. We demand action on gun safety in America. Gun safety in every town. It's so many people that's losing their lives to guns, and there are things that needs to be changed. And I think the only way we're gonna solve murders around here is we're gonna have to protect the witnesses. We gotta let them not have to be known to the accuser. If we have all the information that we need to prosecute these people and get them off the streets. Because not only they did it to me, they're going to do it again. If they're getting away with it, what make you think they get mad at the next person? What are they going to do? But I have to rewind my situation because I also was a part of gun violence before that. Before this happened in 2016, someone broke in my house, out into my home. I raised my kids and I bought and built. My granddaughter was my son who passed away. His daughter was 7 years old at the time. 6 African-American men, it's probably 6, could have been more. Broke into my home, put guns on me and my granddaughter at gunpoint. We sat on the couch. They ramshacked my house. And, it took, I think, this to 2016. I seen my son. We went to court for a ticket. My son walked up on a guy and said, "You broke into my mother's house." But they got 2 people. I went to court for one. One I didn't get able to go to court for because they said they wanted to try this guy without me coming. And I feel like they left other people out here on the streets. I felt that the judicial system failed me at that point in 2013, because when it's African American, it's always other things that they're running through their heads instead of being on what's going on at that time. I felt like I was the person. I wasn't the victim. I felt like I was the person that was the person that did the break-in. That's how I felt. My 7-year-old granddaughter, she's only a baby. She had to witness that. So in my mind, when I see my son run this guy in the courthouse, I knew then he was finding something out, but it took him from 2013 to 2016. And I will always tell him the battle's the Lord's. The battle's the Lord's, son. They didn't get much. Don't worry about it. But that's easy for me to say. That was his mother, me, and his daughter, 7 years old. He never told me anything, but at the end of the day, I don't know, But I felt like I was failed because they left those people out here. You only got 2.
Did they find the killers of your son?
No, they saying the person that did it, he's locked up now for something else, but not for that. So we still sitting here. I have no justice for my son.
He was never charged?
He was never charged. But they said that, detective said that many people call, no one wants to testify. And that brings me back to, we got to lobby for better laws. We got to change the constitutional rights if that's what we got to do. If we know that you feel like this the killer, but you can't do nothing because nobody want to testify, people are afraid. They thinking, what are you going to do to me if I get up there? What, So to me, I think that we got to go back to the drawing board somehow, because this has happened too often. I got Jalen out here, got killed over there, and Freddie Hawkins. They all in connection because they all went to school together. They all from the same side of town. So they know each other. My oldest son knew Freddie Hawkins' oldest brother. They went to Mount Tabor together. So all these kids know each other. And to me, the same way things happen, I came from in those areas. I was born off 12th and a half Street, Trade Street. I seen a lot, but I wanted better for me and better for my kids, and I chose better. I'm no better, but I chose better. And so for that being said, we got to figure out a way to get these people to be held accountable for their actions. And just people getting up going to saying, I know, but I don't want to come to the courthouse. That tells us a whole lot. We're not winning these people's trust. And even in the judicial system, we got to get some trust. We got to, because I felt when I lost my son, it took me back to 2013. They failed me. They didn't get these people off the street. Maybe if they caught the rest of the people that was involved in the break-in of my home, I would have my son today. And I don't, because he probably went out here trying to figure it out. And if he could figure out, if the streets told him, I feel like that's what I pay tax monies for. That's what I pay taxes for the judicial systems to get out here, to do their job and figure out who these people are. Don't make it seem like I'm the bad person.
Right.
I'm not the bad person.
I see a lot from where I sit, and I feel frustrated. I feel aggravated, and I feel a sense of sadness because I feel your pain even sitting in here years later. I remember when that happened. I remember when Jalen up in Cody Drive, North Hills, when that happened. I understand what's happening out here, But I don't understand is it appears to me is that we have become complacent to where we are accepting these losses as okay.
Yes.
And next day we go on with business. I don't see, and I said this on the previous conversation, I don't see the protest. I don't see the outrageousness. I mean, that when I was growing up, you didn't see shootings. You didn't.
No.
Somebody might have got cut.
Or fighting, but no shooting.
But no shootings.
Not at all.
And then when shootings started occurring, we were shocked and awed. And now it's almost like we have become desensitized to what's happening, and we choose not to get involved. Mm-hmm. We choose to stay in our lanes, as they say, no snitching policy.
Exactly.
And then I ask myself, am I really my brother's keeper? Am I my brother's keeper? If I am, then, as you say, I'm no better, but I can do better. I'm no better than you, but I know better and I can do better.
Absolutely.
And I can choose better. I can choose better to do what's right. I mean, we can really stop a lot of this. We really can. You know, we rely on the police to solve some issues that we can solve ourselves. And I think that me personally, not as the sheriff, but me as a citizen of this county and of this country, that we got to do better than this, because we're losing too many young kids. Too many.
Absolutely.
I'm tired of going to funerals. I'm tired of talking to parents who I know who kids are being laid to rest. I'm at a place to where I'm looking for solutions. What do we need to do? I mean, is it, do we need to find something to do with our kids? Do we need to go into the school system? Do we need to do more mentoring? What do we need to do? Because whatever we need to do, I want to put what little assistance or influence I have behind the cause, because we can't just sit back and keep going behind the hearse and going to the cemetery.
I really think that we need to put things in these communities for these younger kids in these low-income areas. Mm-hmm. To me, I think we have more problems in those areas than, death and killings are everywhere. But in these types of areas, it's becoming more potent. I think we need to put community centers. When I was a young girl, I used to go to the clubhouse. People needs to get out and get community centers. I used to go to the clubhouse. We go there, we do homework, we play, we have fun. Now kids have nothing to do but to be idle. And even if they're going through the struggle, the parents going through a struggle, or, the kids are going through a struggle. And a lot of these kids don't know nothing but struggle and survival.
That's true.
And when you look
true.
And when you look at a lot of kids, parents like myself that sacrificed. I sacrificed and went to school. I had 2 kids in college. I sacrificed. I knew I wanted better than where I seen and where I came from. I wanted better for mine. Any kid I put in the world, I wanted much better than I ever had. So I went to college, and you got to know that education is the key to come out of poverty. It's not where you live, it's not where you're from, it's where you're going.
That's a fact.
So you gotta know, these parents gotta tell their kids, education is the key. You gotta study, you gotta work hard, and you can have way more. But then you got these kids that's fighting, struggling every day, and then you got kids that going to school with these kids who parents are sacrificing, and it becomes problems for these sacrifice parents' kids. Because these kids here, they want the things that other parents sacrificing for, and they don't have it. Mm-hmm. So then you get envy, jealousy, greed. You get all these kinds of things. And then kids, when you have been through a struggle and you gotta struggle for everything, then you begin to take. Then you begin to want to take things from others that have more. So I think we need to get involved with these kids, find them in the schools that, that's going through things. We got, I just think about back in the day when there were crack cocaine came into the community, and in the Black community, it wasn't a lot of help for those kids and their parents. You know, those kids really was fending for themselves. So they was growing up by themselves. They was raising themselves. So we got to get things in the community, I think, to help a lot of the less fortunate kids.
So you say we need more mentoring programs.
More
we need
mentoring programs.
More people involved in the communities.
Yes.
I was talking with a lady earlier, and she was talking about we need to get in our communities ourselves and walk them. We need to get in our communities and be present, not just for a little while.
I agree.
But for the entire time.
I agree. I agree with that.
We can't be afraid of our own communities and our children anymore.
That's right. I agree.
Yeah.
You got to get out there in that community. And, you know, I think about back in the day when I was in college and things were so more open and people on the streets and doing a lot of things and stuff. And you had more presence, and we removed that. Now things are behind the scene, and you got more shootings, like drive-bys, and people not even caring because they have figured nobody's going to say anything because nobody want to be labeled as a snitch. That's what's known in the Black community. You tell something, you're a snitch. And when people lose their children, that's not snitching. People need to come up, and people needs to do what's right.
You know, I always ask the question when I talk to people in the community, if the roles were switched,
they would want answers.
Would you snitch? If the roles were switched, would you want me to tell what happened to your loved one?
Of course you would. I believe they would.
Of course they would.
Yes, they would.
They want justice, as you said.
Justice, exactly.
So, I heard you say that you've joined a lot of groups to help you get through counseling and grief. How are you doing? I'm going. It's been 4 years. This year will be 5, and this is the strongest I guess I've been to be able to really talk about it. To be able to, this is, you know, did a couple of little different gun violence organizations that I spoke of, but I wasn't as strong as I am today. But by faith and with God, I say my church, my pastor, I'm a member of Galilee Missionary Baptist Church, and my pastor, Dr. Scovins, has really been a great leader to me. A good man.
Yes,
Dr.
and he's
Scovins.
been a great leader to help me along the way, along with my church members. His words of encouragement has really blessed my soul. And just staying rooted, even when I didn't trust God no more, the faith that I had, I still kept praying. I still kept going. I still kept calling on his name when I couldn't do nothing but call on Jesus. That's all I could do. And he has renewed my strength, and he's keeping me. And I always thought my purpose was, I went to college, I joined this sorority, in the community, I help in the community. I thought those was my purpose.
Theta.
Yes. And I thought that was my purpose. Everything, those things was my purpose from where I came from. But I went to Israel with my church a year after my son passed. And
what was that like?
Oh man, that was an awesome experience.
Israel.
And just walking the crucifixion of Jesus, that was just, he came to me and said, why not you? Because I couldn't understand why me, but I had to think about Mary and how she seen her son, and he died for me and my son. So I still wasn't where I needed to be after I left there, but it gave me a sense of faith and hope. I was hopeless.
Wow.
I was torn and broken and still broken. But at the end of the day, I believe my purpose is this. Helping the next grieving mother lost their child. How did you get through? Telling my story, how I made it through. And how I made it was even when I did not even trust him no more, when I had faith of a 10 and I went to a 2, I still was trusting him.
I trust him when I can't trace him. And even when I can't see him, I
still gotta trust him. Because he knows and I held on to this scripture. Proverbs,
Sure.
Proverbs, no, not Proverbs, it's Jeremiah. He knows the path for me, not to harm me, but to bless me and to give me a future. So I held on to that, just knowing that he didn't allow this to hurt me. He still continued to bless me, and then I wonder, when after losing my son, and then 3 years later I come around and I go back through this same pain again, another drive-by, and my daughter, 25 years old, 2 kids, loses her kids, her high school sweetheart, loses her kid's father, never thought I was going to go back through it again. And still no justice, People know stuff. Nobody want to say anything, you know. And it really breaks my heart, because if these people, if this was their children that they lost, they would want the same as us other grieving mothers would want.
You know, like you, I'm from Winston, born here, raised here, come off the east side as well. We're better than this.
We are.
We're so much better than this. One of the things I used to pride myself on, that when I traveled around the country as an agent, and I would say, you know, I don't care what people say, ain't nowhere like home. Ain't nowhere like the Trayfo, ain't nowhere like Winston-Salem. And I still say that, but I think that we are losing our sense of identity. Mm-hmm. We're losing our sense of purpose here. It's something has happened that have caused us to go left. And every day I search, and I want to do my part beyond being the sheriff. I want to do my part in the community. And so every day I struggle with what can I do. And that is why I ask you and a few other mothers to come and tell your story, because the story is to be told, not whole. The story is to be told.
Absolutely.
Because that's where the power is. Yeah, your emotions maybe will affect somebody that's sitting, and give them the courage to say, you know what?
Yes.
I can't do this no more. I got to face my fears. I was sharing with the group earlier today. A buddy of mine just got back from South Africa. He went over there to the Sling plant. They build planes over there, Max. And he was showing me a video of being over in South Africa. And they were getting ready to go on a safari. And the the tour guide was giving the person's instructions about the safari. He said, on this safari, you're going to meet some lions, some tigers. Mm-hmm. And he said, when you meet these lions and tigers and cougars, he says, you can't be afraid. He says, what I need for you to do is, when you meet them and you see them, the lions, the tigers, and these cougars, he says, I want you to stand and look at them. He said, don't move, and you can't show fear. He says, if you turn and you run from them, because they are predators, it's 100% chance that they will chase you down and devour you. Mm-hmm. He said, but if you stand fearlessly, and the moment they move towards you, you move toward them with the same intent and vision, intensity. He says, what you will do then is you will put doubt in the predator's mind, mm-hmm. which will give you a 50% chance of surviving it. And he said, because lions and tigers and cougars and the predators, their eyes are right here, so everything they see is bigger than what it really is. He said, and if you do that, you have a 50% chance of surviving. And when I saw that video of the man talking, I got happy for a minute. My spirit got happy, and I started thinking about in life sometimes, just like you said, you got to face it.
Got to.
I can't run from it. I got to face it. And what you're saying may give somebody a chance to stop running from what they know, what they saw, and turn around and face it and say, I'm not afraid.
Yes, because God did not give us a spirit of fear.
Of fear.
And we got to stand. And and I'm hoping that this does open up some people's hearts that know the answers to these, not only just for my son and for Jalen, but for every mother out here has lost their children. Son. Everybody's
so many people.
That you will open up your heart and not be condemned, because God gonna condemn them. Because if you know and you don't do anything, you're going to be condemned. You need to face it and open up your heart and give us closure. Tell what you know and don't be afraid. Because God will be your warrior. He will knock the enemy down in their behalf.
That is so true. If I know what harm my brother and I say not, how can I be my brother's keeper? If I see a trap being laid for my brothers and I say not, how can I be my brother's keeper? That is so true, so true.
Yes.
It's always a pleasure to see you. Always a pleasure to talk with you.
And it's always a pleasure.
Let me
to
ask
see
you a question.
as well.
How do you deal with the pain? I've seen you talk about this twice. How do you deal with it?
I really just have trust in God, and I pray. I do a lot of different Bible studies. I try to walk through the Bible, not only just hear my pastor. I began to want to learn the word for myself so that I can get strength, so I can go back to those verses that will give me hope, that's going to keep me, give me hope and give me a future and give me everything that I need to renew my strength, because I've been weak. I've been running for 5 years, going on 5 years, 4 years, because it's going on 5, and I sit here with you today and I'm not running anymore. I've been running. I've been afraid. I've been fearful. I've been like, I don't know these people. I got to protect me. I got to protect my daughter. I feel like I'm always in protect mode. I'm looking over my shoulder, And I felt that way back when I said in 2013. But now it's time for me to stand. It's time for me to stand up. It's time for me to stand. It's time for me to tell my story in hopes that I can touch the hearts of the people that know the answers, not only for mine, but for every person out there that know the answers, for somebody that lost their children, that they would stand up and give us hope, get some courage to tell and to come forth and tell, so that we can put these types of people behind bars. Because if they did it to me, they may get mad at you and do it to you or yours. So just know that if they did it once, they'll do it again. And if they're out here in these streets, in this city, walking these streets, they're liable to do it again because they feel like they've gotten away. But we're hoping, I'm praying every day. I pray that God, I had to give everything to God, because I can't fight this battle myself. I had to give it to God, and I got to stand and I got to speak. And then at this point, I give it to God, and I know He's going to open up the doors. He's going to open up somebody's heart today or someday to give us justice. And that's what I pray. And that's how I keep going. I just have to stay in my word. And I'm not by no means whole and die, but I know God. I kept my kids rooted in the word of God. I kept them in church. They know the word of God. So with that being said, I just stay and stay in my word and try to stay there so that God can continue to renew my strength.
Wow. That's powerful what you're saying. Powerful. It's interesting. And I keep going back to a conversation we had earlier. Lady was saying that her son's murder has not been solved yet. It's an unsolved homicide. Mm-hmm. And she could pass the killer on the street and not even know it.
Absolutely.
She could be sitting in the church with the guy that killed her son. She could pass him in the grocery store. Mm-hmm. He could speak to her. He could have showed up at the house after the funeral.
Absolutely.
And not even know it. We can't do to others what they've done to us, or what has been done. We've got to do better.
Yes.
We've got to. We
must do better. This community must do better. This community has to stand up, because they're liable to do it again. They're getting away with it. And people are going around, they think it's fun and games, and it's not. There are hurting mothers out here, and they think it's funny. I have to just mention this because, my daughter be's on social media, and then, she gets off. But someone had some paperwork or whatever, and they flew around what the witnesses said and different things like that. It's just awful how people has no respect for people's family, their children. They got kids, he have kids out here, and they got all this paperwork roaming around, and they talking about the witness, and that's why people don't come, because people get the paperwork and then they put it all over social media, and it had Jalen's name on it, and it had people that was witness that have talked to, the judicial system, and it's just floating around. But when you go and you talk to the detectives or whatever, they say, well, people do have that right. They have right to their paperwork, and they can do that. But I don't know what else can we do. Like, these people are out here just making it a mockery that they've done these things. or they know and nothing is being done because they could just spread it all over social media, read the documents, the people that went down and told you guys, and put it all over social media to just taunt the families.
Would it help if we walked our own streets and patrolled our own communities?
I think that probably would help.
You think it would help?
I think if you got back out here like they did when they was out here on the streets doing things, I think the same way we got people off the streets, I think they need to get in the communities. To me,
the protests, you mean?
No, not only like protests, but detectives getting out here among these people, undercovers, whatever it is, because I feel like these people can't hold water. If my son found out 3 years later who these people are, and we didn't even know the people, the two people that they did get, we didn't know them. I asked them, do y'all know these people?
It was just a random house.
Kids didn't know him.
Wow.
Whether it was I don't know. I don't know the kids.
So
you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I don't know the kids. I asked my sons. They didn't know these two people that I only got two. But from those two, what could we have led from those two that's locked up right now? I
see what you're saying.
Those two know.
I see what
they
you're saying.
They know the rest of them.
I see exactly what you're saying.
But you didn't. You left them two. You give them a plea. They get a plea deal. And they're off the prison and that's it.
Wow.
And you don't look for nobody else. And they know. You know, I don't know if I picked one of them out of a lineup. I don't know because I never got any answers. I don't know anything. They never came back to tell me that. They never told me that. They did call me and ask me to come to court, but you still had 5 other people. You know, once my doors kicked in, I ran to the couch and shielded my granddaughter. So I don't know how many people was in there. I had a 3-level house. So they came deep, you know. So I shielded her to keep her from saying anything, but at the end of the day, they got 2. Why didn't we get all of them off the street? Because however they got them 2, those other 2 people know something. But I know my son. I know my child. And I know my child don't get out here breaking and entering. He don't hurt nobody. He went to college. He had 2 businesses he started. He had a life ahead of him. He had a beautiful daughter. He had a 3-month-old. His wife was pregnant with a 3-month-old baby. She was pregnant, 3 months pregnant when my son passed away. His daughter is now 4. Her name is Jackson. And my son told me, he said, her name is he thought it was a boy. We thought it was a boy, but she ended up being a girl. Her mom still named her Jackson because he told me, he said, Jackson means God is gracious. So I know my son was battling with God because they said wherever you take them, they're going to come back to the word, whatever. So he was telling me her name is Jackson, but it means God is gracious. And I know that he was battling, but he never would tell me. And I didn't even realize that my son was so broken from what these people done to me in 2013 up until 2016. The man was burdened down. I didn't even realize it because he always had a smile, always came here, you know. And when he ran the guy in the courthouse, I told him then, I said, the battle is the Lord's. Don't worry. And he looked at me and he said, nothing ever going to happen to you again. And nothing is going to happen to me. If it does, it's my time. So these are words that my son left me with after losing him, that I have to play in my mind. And I still, here it is, 2020.
Wow.
And we don't have no justice. And people know. People have said who these people are. And the person who they said it was, I don't know the people, but when I seen pictures, I can assure you he was one of the people that broke in my house. He had a mask on, but I never forget his eyes. I never forget his demeanor. It was him. Ever. I could never forget him. I don't care. He could put a mask on. He could put whatever you want. I'll never forget him. He was one of them, and he was the main one that they said did the drive-by out there with maybe 2 other people in the car with them.
I want you to know that my prayers are with you always.
Thank you.
If we can do anything here at the office of the sheriff, don't hesitate to let us be a part of it. We're searching for solutions to stop the violence. We're searching for solutions to heal the community. I'm going to let you have the last word before we go home, before we close it. You tell me anything you want to say or leave us with. I
would just like to leave you with that, to remember their names, remember Jonathan McCraver, remember Jalen Carkerham, remember Freddie Hawkins, and many of the other ones that I don't know everyone that have lost their children here in this city, but my heart goes out to these mothers. I pray their strength every day, even the ones that I don't know, because I am a part of them. We are all in one. We all are broken. We've lost our children, and it means so much to me to be able to uplift them and tell them just hold on to God's unchanging hand. Keep the faith. Even when you don't trust him, trust him. If you know what I mean, if you can understand what I'm saying, you still gotta trust him. Because some things that we lost our kids, but God kept me. I shouldn't be here today. I shouldn't even be sitting here. I should have left with my son. I was there. Over 30 rounds was shot at us. And I shouldn't even be here to talk to y'all today, but God kept me. So with that said, I'm here to want justice for all these mothers, and whatever I can do, speak to them, talk to them, whatever I can do to give encouraging words to keep them during this time. But I do believe that God is going to allow someone to open up their heart and tell what they know to bring justice for our children.
I appreciate that. My heart, my love, my prayers go out to anyone, all parents, all people that have lost someone to gun violence or violence. We're better than this.
We are.
We've been called to a greater cause than this. To those that may know, to those that know and don't want to say something, there's so many ways to say something without saying something. Write a letter. Send a message, do something, say something.
Yes.
We can no longer walk in the path that we're walking in. We're losing too many lives, too many young lives across this city, this state, this county, this country, this future.
The future.
And that is our future.
Yes.
Our children. You know, that's the greatest asset we have is our children. That's it. So I want to thank you, Tracy, for coming by today, my sister, for having this conversation with me, for sharing with us. I appreciate all of you for watching us, for tuning in with us. As always, I love you, love this city, this county, love this country. And as always, this was Bobby, Off the Cuffs. Thank you.